Good morning, everybody. John Spielkley here from GAI Insights, giving you your Gen AI news briefing, rating news, essential, important, or optional, giving you time back in your day and insight in your mind. All right, today we've got a lot of things going on. We've got some interesting new announcements by OpenAI. We've got some algorithms that are improving multiple expert plus human feedback and more. All right, today we've got David, Luda, Paul, and Ankash. Ankash, you can start off with the first one, please.
Sure, John. So the first one that we have for today comes from OpenAI's Developer Day, and it talks about the real-time API that they have launched and various other developers' features.
All right, David, what did you think of this one?
I'm going to go important on this one. So they, as Ankash said, released a bunch of new features for developers. I'd say the most notable is probably what they're calling a real-time API, which allows developers to build apps with something close to the advanced voice mode that GPT has, but not quite. I'm pretty excited to see what companies will build with that. And it's really the main reason why I would put this as important, because with so many companies using this for customer service and various areas where customers would potentially be interacting with this tool, I think this provides, a significant upgrade for that. A couple of the other tools that they released were an evaluation tool, and another tool that allows a developer to use a large model of OpenAI's to tune a smaller model, and another vision API. So it's nothing, mind blowing, but with so many companies using OpenAI over other providers still, I think it's just important to be aware of the upgrades. So I'd mark it important.
All right, we got important going on here. What do you think, Paul?
Yeah, I mean, if we talk, we're obviously super excited about voice. I mean, it is beta. They have a lot of half-built bridges that are not out yet or in beta. Yeah, I think if it's important, weekend reading, possibly, yeah. I mean, it feels rushed, given all the departures and they're trying to come out with news. It feels like a PR play, but AI leaders should at least be aware of it.
Yeah, I will say this is the normal timing for their dev day. So they did have it at the same time last year, which also happened to be when they experienced a bunch of departures shortly afterwards. So maybe they do time their departure announcements around dev day so that they can act it a bit.
All right, Luda, we're headed for important. I was going to give it an optional, but maybe you're convincing me. What do you think, Luda?
I think given the market share and the presence of Microsoft in pretty much every PC, I think it is important for people to know that it's available, can play with it, and the like.
All right.
So it's important.
Okay, Ankash, starting off with an important next, please.
Okay, the next one we have comes from Microsoft, and there are new features in the latest release of Microsoft, and they are branding it as AI companion for everyone.
Yeah, we have Mustafa Suleiman, who came over for Inflection, basically sending everybody what I did on my summer vacation letter here. What do you think, Luda?
Oh, actually, my comment about Microsoft, for some reason, I thought we were discussing Microsoft. I thought it was important for people to know what Microsoft is doing. They're introducing a lot of features that are pretty advanced for the folks who are using Microsoft packages, and I think this is important to know.
Paul, I know you're in California. You may have not brought Barney with you. This feels to me.
I did not. Barney did not travel. Yeah, I get this is optional. I mean, I think it's a product announcement. I think we continue to find real adoption challenges with Copilot and 360. I've only had one taker for my $150 to do a video on exactly why someone likes Copilot. I think it's interesting that he's sharing where he's going, and I like the analogy of what I did in my summer vacation here. But I think the AI later cannot read this and wouldn't miss a beat.
David, where are you?
I beg to differ on this. I'm going important, and I was almost borderline essential, and not because of the silly blog post, the squishy Mustafa's kind of hello to everybody now being part of Microsoft and taking responsibility for these upgrades. But we know how many companies have purchased the Copilot licenses for their employees, and these upgrades are largely look like they're putting a lot of the new functionality that OpenAI has provided into Copilot, including the voice functionality. I think, there's enough upgrades here and changes. And by the way, this does include the functionality that they were going to release several months ago, which was called Recall. Now they're calling it Copilot Vision, where Copilot will see your screen and be able to react to things on your screen for you. So that's another one. I think it's important to know the new functionalities if you've installed this tool. And I think it's like yet another reminder that companies need to be teaching their employees how to use this tool. And now here's more functionality that they need to teach to actually get some use out of this. I think Copilot has been pretty subpar to date, I do think it's getting better. And I think a lot of the reason that there's not a lot of uptake on it is because there's just not a lot of education on how to use it. So I'm going important on this one. And
yeah, and see, the market share, guys, they're everywhere, right? On every PC you can use it, and this set of functionality gives people a playing ground, right, for checking it out and adopting it, because it's getting better. So it's important for people to know that it exists and try it.
You want to make the case for essential?
Yeah,
I mean, here we've got Copilot out here. We got, kick off.
I was borderline essential on it, given the market share, but I could live.
Very important. We don't know how good it is.
All right. Important it is. Ankaj, next.
Okay, the next one that we have is a research paper which talks about the perfect blend of RLHF with mixture of judges.
Yes, I took a quick look at this one. I think this notion of taking real life human feedback and mixture of judges together and how it helps do complex planning as well without reward hacking, as well as better quality in terms of the outcome. I think it's very interesting. I was going to give it an optional in terms of, it's still early days in terms of how you improve these models, but really impressive in terms of how the combination of the folks from, Meta and Meta, two parts of Meta, their FAIR, I think it's part of their FAIR group, and also Meta Research are moving forward with how do you deal with the biggest labor cost when beyond development costs when dealing with these models, which is figuring out how to evaluate them. So I was going to give it an optional, but I think a promising area of research.
Yeah, I feel like, reading the nuts and bolts of this is optional. As you said, the actual technology will, it's basically an algorithm, and you can, I believe that I'm hopefully not confusing this with the Salesforce version of this. I think you can plug this right into your machine learning framework allegedly, and it works right away. Although I didn't see if it's released on GitHub, like when it's coming. So that made me say optional, but definitely watch this space, because this could offer a nice improvement for you with very little effort.
Yeah, what do you think? Huh?
I actually thought that I'm totally with David. I think leaders need to know what Meta has developed. And there are two challenges, right? We know that that multitask learning can be hacked because of the rewards. And we've seen a paper when an LLM simply lied to achieve the reward, right? So it's a complex area. And what this paper suggests that they've fine-tuned and created a way to avoid reward hacking in multitask learning scenarios and optimize the models to actually be much more efficient in doing so. So I just think it's very important. I do agree with David that if you go deeper into the paper, it gets real technical real quick. But reading the first 2 pages of is very much worth it, I think.
Is this available now? I thought it wasn't yet available.
I was trying to figure that out, and I didn't see anything.
No, I don't think it's available.
But it's even if it's not available, John, I don't think many people will go play with it necessarily. But the fact that this is getting there is very important, I think.
Yeah, I was just reacting to when you said, David, it's available. You know that you can plug it into your infrastructure without a lot of work. That wasn't clear to me. That it's either available or easy to implement, but conceptually. So we're saying, so Luna's hanging in there. I'm chopping off different parts of her argument, and she's still holding tight to important.
Yeah. Holding tight.
It's not available. It's hard to put in. Still important.
Put in. It's easy. They said it's easy to put in once it is available.
Yeah, the easy parts, like the old thing about minor surgery, major surgery. You know, minor surgery happens to you, right? And so it's easy if somebody else is putting it in. Anyway, okay, we're gonna go for important. Pretty impressive in terms of the theoretical results. The experimental results and.
John, we're seeing more and more. It takes a village to write a research paper. I think this one's got 15 to 20 co-authors, and it's becoming more and more common these days.
Yeah, well, I think what's interesting is that I bet when you think about what the nature of the research is, I think that many parts of this are decomposable. You know what I mean, in terms of, hey, you go work on this part of the algorithm, or you do the testing part, or you know what I mean. So I think that like some physical creations of new mechanisms and so forth. This I would think, from a research perspective, it's easy for a team to get leverage from having more people involved. And
it helps funding.
Yeah.
Pardon me? It helps funding.
Funding.
Yes, I think this is all funded out of Meta, but yes.
No, I mean, if you're an author of AI papers, I'm being a little controversial here, but I mean, it's.
Yes, well, I think
here in the Valley, and AI people are getting $1 to $2 million a year here. So if you get your name on 3-4 papers here, you're getting to the higher end of that.
Yeah, I think it's a talent retention thing too. Like come work with us, we'll get your name on some important papers, and then to your point, you're more marketable in the marketplace. Awesome, but again, Meta laying down real money to advance the field, and we expect making it available. All right, next.
Okay, the next one is around AI infrastructure, and it's from Thread AI. They have launched a new offering called Lemma.
All right, well, can I find a Barney somewhere in here? This thing is, I love you, you love me. We saw this problem. We're out of the cave, and so show me something. Anyway, not to prejudice the jury here, David.
Yeah, well, actually, to show you something, I was going to recommend if you click on the product tab, you can scroll through and see a little more information than what you get from this.
Oh, okay. I didn't click on the product. Go ahead.
But essentially, this company is coming out of stealth, and it's been founded by some folks who were at Palantir. And it's an AI orchestration layer, right? We've been talking about these a little more lately. Companies had been kind of, those that had some good technical talent were sort of piecing together an orchestration layer themselves for a while, and now we're starting to see them offered by various vendors, and this is another player in this space. I will say I appreciate that they put a lot of effort into their content. I love this web page. I wish I had created it. They have some use cases. I think you scroll down a little bit more, Ankash, they show you some particular ways that this would be helpful in various workflows, because basically it's saying, if you were to, for example, they have here like a 911 call, all these different aspects of it. So you've got the call coming in, it may need to be translated, and then you've got to have the dispatch contacted, which can happen automatically. And all these things happen in different systems, and even with the different people like in the organization, you can stitch this together. They say that it's low code, and they've got some building blocks in there that you stick together. I mean, it looks pretty interesting, and Palantir is obviously a notable group of folks. I guess I want to call it optional. I was close to saying important, just to signal. I don't know how much we've said lately, hey, these orchestration layers are out there for you now, and you need them. They'll help you overcome some problems you've probably been experiencing to date. That would be the only reason I'd mark it as important. But if we've been hitting that hard, I'd call it optional.
Yeah, I hadn't looked at the product stuff. It's very interesting. Gotta love Palantir, a company supported by the government, governed by libertarians. It's like, hello.
So,
Anyway.
John, I was also with David between optional and important, and thinking important, because in the overall cost of ownership, this is where a lot of effort goes. It's like cross-functional integration in teams. How do you make this guy talks to this guy and actually do it seamlessly? This allows it. What I didn't do, it's available now. It has a number of use cases out there. So they've tested it and it does work, it appears. So it's a product announcement. However, it's an important advancement of the whole infrastructure. So I think people should know about it. What I didn't do is look at who's competing in this space. I believe Lemma is not the only one, right? But it is very comprehensive. You have to give it to them. Done very well. So I was going important.
Yes. Well, I think that the company that Accenture invested in, I want to say Mistral, but it's not Mistral. It starts with M. That is also competing in the space. I mean, it's an incredibly important space. Should we say essential? I mean, because we're seeing, this issue of orchestrating across models. I was just talking to an AI leader at a multi-billion-dollar education company yesterday, and same issue, right? How do they do model coordination, process re-engineering? This integration layer. And the review article we looked at the other day from the folks from Cube Research was highlighting this as a huge growth area. Yeah. So what do you say? Essential on this one? I didn't see the product stuff. I just went from the blog entry, which seemed ridiculously thin.
Yeah, it was thin, but this is good, and I actually read more about it before the call, so I was important. Paul, what do you think?
I think in my mind, I think we're looking at least half the call center people going away in 3 years. This is one of the many approaches to it. Important feels like the right calibration. If you have any kind of call center above a couple hundred people, you need to be looking at, and you already are, but you need to understand the state of the art here.
Yes, and Colberry notes, hey, look, isn't Palantir delivering, some of the largest deployed AI systems in the world? And probably, I think a lot of the work they do is classified, so it's hard to know for sure. So we're going toward essential?
I think important.
Important.
All right. You sure you guys aren't doing cognitive anchoring here? If I had started on essential. All right. What they say, George Bush came into the Situation Room with everybody before the Iraq War and said, I think we should go to war. What do you think? That's the way to get open debate. Anyway, next. Important.
Okay, so the next one comes from Salesforce AI Research, and it talks about accelerating model evaluation and fine-tuning with SFR Judge.
Yeah, is Salesforce going to work here, trying to do evaluation stuff, maybe reinvent itself ahead of a lot of people are saying Salesforce might get pulled apart by these different agents and so forth. What do you think here, Luda?
I put it as optional because it's just within the Salesforce. But it is an interesting. We already talked about the agent being the evaluation model being evaluated by themselves. So those are judges, right? They put together. And as they were putting together, it seems like they've invented a number of things here, how to make them more efficient and make them to do better. If you, Ankash, if you scroll to like I think page 2, there's different metrics, and they beating them, but it is within the Salesforce platform, and so as a result, I put it as optional.
All right, so we're coming in on optional here. I finally get my Barney. No, yes.
Well, one interesting thing to point out is that it will give explanations for its judgment. I'm not sure if other tools do that. I certainly haven't read of any doing that, so that's pretty impressive and important. But yeah, because it's in Salesforce, which not everybody has, I'm hesitant to call it important, but the fact that that functionality is possible and could be coming to you in various other platforms, I think is interesting.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that Salesforce is, vertically integrating into checking itself kind of thing, if you will. I don't know if it's vertical, whatever, integrating into. Paul, you okay with optional here?
Yeah, I think it's definitely optional. I mean, I think this is the next wave of competition on the LLM orchestration layer. I mean, we have a month or so ago, we had David Howard from Cox Automotive who stopped by one of our learning labs and went through his what do you call it, a battle royale, where he had 4 LLMs and they were judging each other's outputs, and it was a very kind of strong methodological approach here. So I think this is going to the next level. So now that I know I need a village of AI agents, a village of LLMs, how do I differentiate and choose among the different offerings from Salesforce or AWS and others? And but it's optional. I mean, this is vendor news. They're doing what they're supposed to do, which is hawking their wares.
All right, we're going for optional on this one. Akash, next.
Because before we go,
Okay, the last one.
if the results didn't come out well for Salesforce, they wouldn't publish it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Well, a lot of, pharma does the same thing, right? They only publish, they don't have to publish all the ones that failed. They just have to publish the ones that work. All right, go ahead, Akash.
Yeah. So the last one that we have for today comes from Cerebras. They are an AI chip maker and they are trying to compete with NVIDIA, and they have filed for an IPO.
Yeah, very interesting technology here. As they note in the caption for the picture, these chips are massive. They're 56 times the normal size of a chip. Saw one. It's basically like a small to medium sized pizza, right? It's huge, and they're coming out. They're going on an IPO. Looking at this article, they quote this thing that says that there are 24 IPO companies that went out that were venture-backed IPO, and they said that it would take 49 years for all the private startups valued over $1 billion to go public at that rate, which means you've got just under 1,200, which I can't believe that analysis, that there's $1.2 trillion in valuation sitting out there in venture-backed companies. Anyway, maybe. But I put this as optional. I think, it's an important competitor. They're, just starting up in terms of trying to take a bite out of NVIDIA. Nice, interesting technology, but this announcement, I think, if you're in the market, you're aware of them and the news here. So I had it as optional.
Yeah, I agree. It's optional. I mean, we've talked about this company and the chips certainly seem impressive, but until they create software and everything that you need to actually use these chips in a way that's not like incredibly onerous, I think that they're going to remain a very niche player. And as you see right now from this article, I think they said almost 90% of their revenue comes from one company, G42 in Abu Dhabi, which is a little controversial. The government was not crazy about this relationship because G42 has ties to China potentially. So I think it's just one to watch for, and it's been that way now for a good year. So
Yeah.
I'll be looking forward to when we see more about the kind of the guts that you need to actually use these come out of the company.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if the Chinese all of a sudden have, large wafer fab technology. I mean, I don't know what level of technology these guys use. Are they like 5 nanometer or 12 or 15? The Chinese, as far as we can tell, are at about 9 or 10 right now, nanometer. So it'll be interesting to see. Okay, optional. We're headed for optional. Luda, Paul,
Yeah, agree.
on the optional train here. All right.
I think it's just yet another indication of all the activity coming out of the Middle East around AI. AI is the new oil. And just anecdotally, I was involved with one conference, not ours, and NVIDIA was speaking, and NVIDIA was happy to be on any panel with anyone except for a panel with these guys. So it's definitely a little chirpy over there.
I thought they didn't like Grok either. NVIDIA didn't like Grok either.
That's true. I'm sure they don't. They didn't block Grok from being on a panel with them, but these guys, maybe Grok's now since been added to that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it'd be interesting to see if somebody like if they let the Intel Qualcomm thing go through, if they go buy Turbobrus or something, who knows? But I think that I think it's interesting. The oil states, I think, are going to play a fascinating geopolitical role here. In terms of we have such interdependency with them, and we've I think complex, IP relationships, which will get interesting. All right.
Excuse me, before you go on, I just want to highlight Ram from Colaberry's highlighting David's point that they have an impressive product with no customers.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean it's a product impressive.
Yes, that's good question. Yes. It's kind of first cousin to if a tree falls in the woods and nobody hears it, did it make a sound, right? You have a good product, you don't have a customer. But they have one really big one, 87 or 89% of revenue.
The product is impressive. If you look at the benchmarks, Ram, it is actually very impressive. So they will get customers, I think.
Yes, but we do love the snark of Colaberry. Keep it up. The
show with snark. Watch our daily AI news.
Share the snark. Yes, we're nothing if we're not snarky. Okay.
Can't find any insight. Plenty of snark.
You guys bring the insight. I'll bring the snark. Okay. With that, we've got way more importance than I would have. We got great inflation going on here. No, only kidding. We've got 4 importance, 2 optionals. I actually think a couple of these importance could have been essentials, but I'm in a very democratic mood today. And here we are. All right. Hope that saves you some time in your day. Any announcements, Paul, Luda, David, Akash?
I'm at a AI Realize conference today. I'm keynoting here later on, and this is a conference here in San Francisco focused on enterprise AI. So very excited about that. We have a speaker here, Bank of America, will also speak in our conference on Monday, and we are days away from our conference. It's sold out. Lots of great planning going on. If you're on the wait list, we don't know if you're going to get off, but we appreciate your interest. We will be videotaping the highlights to share that with everyone else. And we're also really looking at ways to use AI as much as we can in the conference. AI music, AI real-time summarizing the things. So we do want to walk the talk and have AI-driven innovation in this event.
Great. Well, thank you, Paul, for that. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you all tomorrow morning when the news breaks again. Bye-bye now.